Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in as always. So today we're going to take a look at the Kizer Gunhammer. This is a new release for 2017 done in collaboration with custom knife maker Daryl Ralph. And Daryl Ralph has been in the industry for quite a long time. I've always liked this model, as far as the design goes. So I was really excited to hear that they were doing this collaboration, and it's taken about 6 months to actually come out from the time that they showed the model. So, as far as Daryl Ralph's custom work or his shop, his, quote-unquote custom shop, I've heard both good and bad things from friends, so I don't have any personal experience. I couldn't really tell you one way or the other, but I know what I'm getting with Kizer, and being that their price points are still quite reasonable as compared to other overseas manufacturers, I was pretty excited to check this one out. So we'll go through the specs, overall impressions, and details. First, what it ships with: normal stuff, box, branded pouch, cloth, yada yada. You guys have seen it all before. Okay, so Gunhammer frame lock flipper, runs on bearings, par for the course from Kizer and a lot of other brands. So size comparisons, we've got the dollar bill as always, and the Para 2. So blade length 3.5 inches, handle length 4.5, overall just about 8 inches the open position. Does weigh in at 5.2 ounces on my scale, so a little bit heavier than some of the other specs I've seen out there. The handle thickness is 0.52 inches. And then the blade stock is coming in at 0.16. So does have a clip point style blade. There's another version of this with a super aggressive recurve. That one wasn't quite my cup of tea. I like the clip point better. S35VN stone-washed titanium handles. This one's plain. They might have other ones that they anodize, but I've only seen the plain titanium so far. And it is a half-height flat grind, or a saber grind as some like to call it. Recurve to the blade. Again, a slight recurve as compared to the other one, which is super aggressive. Anyways, I think that's the specs for the most part. Ceramic bearing, ceramic detent. Also has thumb studs that also function as the blade stop in the open position. So anything else? I think that's it for the specs. Overall impressions. Again, love the design. That's what attracted me to it. I've liked the look of the Gunhammer from Daryl Ralph for a very, very long time. There are a couple things on this knife that probably should be addressed. One thing in particular, obviously it's got its pros and cons. I feel that there's certainly more pros than cons with this knife and Kizer's knives at large. So, jimping is excellent on the flipper tab and on the blade, but it's in a spot here where it is going to hit your finger. I'll show you guys that in a little bit. Don't like the fact that they put this here for tip down carry, but with the aggressive jimping, the aggressive texture on the handle, kind of necessary, so they did it under here. But anyways, a couple qualms. Overall, it's really good. Let's get into those. Let's get into the details on it, and we'll talk about it here. So start off with the blade as always. Again, we've already looked at it a little bit here, but a really nice stone wash, easy to use. The edge is very nice. Comes down to a moderate thickness behind the edge. It's not a super duper slicer, but at 0.16, the total blade thickness is pretty reasonable. Kizer marking, model number, steel. Daryl Ralph's logo, model Gunhammer, and this one might be numbered. I haven't seen that before. I don't recall seeing that. Doesn't matter one way or the other, but anyhow. So this one came hair shaving sharp. The secondary bevel is pretty consistent throughout. I think they did a pretty good job sharpening this one. Maybe a little deeper here on this side than this side. Either way, totally acceptable. Jimping up top of the blade, really well done. It's fine and it's super grippy and it's not sharp. Superb jimping. I really like when it's executed like this, but a lot of traction without being sharp. It really does grip the thumb well, so that's nicely done. The thumb studs here, pretty well done. Not sharp either, lots of traction, and functions as the blade stop. So one thing, when I got this and I first started messing with it, the blade stops / thumb studs actually came loose, and I've never had that happen before. So I try to tighten them up by hand, and they tightened up a little bit, but they came loose again. So I took them off. There was no Loctite on them, which is odd. Generally, when you're doing blade stops / thumb studs, usually those are Loctited down, because it does take, with that nice, pretty strong flipping action, it takes quite a bit of force as it smacks into the the top of the frame here. So that obviously knocked it loose. But I used blue Loctite. This was maybe 2 weeks ago. I've been flipping it a good number of times since then, and they have not come loose again. So I think the blue Loctite is sufficient for this knife in this application. Although if I had any red Loctite handy at the time, I would have used red to secure these thumb studs. But blue's working fine for now. If it comes loose again, I will use red to secure it properly. But again, I was a little bit surprised there was no Loctite here. This was one of the earlier ones to come out, I think, so could have been an oversight. Maybe they're not, or could have been an oversight, or maybe they didn't put it on a batch, or maybe they're not putting it on at all. I don't know. If you guys have one, tell me if you had to apply Loctite. Not a major issue. It's not a flaw by any means, but again, if it does come loose, you will have to adhere it down. So anyhow, now the flipper tab, really well done. Obviously, kind of the Gunhammer, as the name would imply, it's hollowed out, just like on mini pistols. And the jimping they put on this one is excellent as well. Flipping action, super strong. Obviously this is kind of a little bit taller flipper tab, but there's nothing sharp on it as you go to grab it out of your pocket. So let me see if I put some lock bar pressure. No, still fires. Anyways, cool flipper tab, works really well. You don't slip on it at all, so it's a fun feature of this knife. Obviously it's the namesake. Now, one of the problems though is that this nice jimping that keeps you from slipping comes to the back where it's essentially, it functions as a finger guard, as all flippers do. But if you bear down on this knife, you guys can see the jimping right there. It's not going to be terribly comfortable, especially if you have smaller hands and your knuckle is right on that thing. So that is one potential problem. The way to remedy that would have been to probably go from this point back and not have the additional jimping, have it be just smooth. That would have left well, I don't know. It's one of those give and takes, because if you remove some of it, maybe from here back, that way you don't give up any traction for flipping, but you still might catch this particular, I don't know, jimp in the hand when open. No, it'd be fine. Yeah, I think from here down, so the last two, these two would ideally need to be smoothed out. Then you shouldn't feel it in the hand while not giving up any traction for flipping. So that's one thing that could be done better, is to remove those last two. And again, this might be more of a replica of the custom, and so that might be the reason that it's there. Or obviously it makes sense when you're looking at it on paper, but in the hand it's a different story. So that's one area that could be improved. Now, as far as the handle goes, it's got this kind of diamond texture pattern. Really nice. It looks excellent. It's nice and grippy. I'm actually quite fond of it. And they did what they needed to here on the lock side. Underneath the pocket clip here, they did leave it smooth so it can go in and out of your pocket without ripping up your jeans. Really well done. You know, that's something that needs to be on... again, the surface isn't sharp, but it's super grippy. Now, they also accommodated for people who want to carry tip down, and so this part's been left flat, and you know, that is not an attractive feature on this knife at all. It's kind of an eyesore. Here's the problem. I don't know how many people actually carry tip down. Here's the rationale. If 50% of the people who buy your knives carry tip down and 50% carry tip up, then it makes sense that you would have to do both because you can't alienate half of your customers. But if it's only 10% carry tip down, and then it doesn't make sense to, you know, accommodate the 10% and put something so unattractive on the knife. And you know, if you're going by, you know, the forums or Instagram posts, everyone carries tip up, but you know, I don't know if it's naive to assume that that is the buying public for their knives at large. Maybe only enthusiasts buy Kizer knives in the $200 price range. Maybe not. Anyways, in my head, I want to say that most people are not going to carry tip down, but you know, I don't know the numbers. I haven't seen the numbers, so would be much happier if this wasn't here, definitely. But it is what it is. It doesn't affect it in any functional way. In fact, it adds additional functional value for those who carry tip down at the expense of being ugly. So, anyways, pivot is their typical pivot here. Stainless steel lock insert, and the pocket clip itself, 3D, excellent retention, really nicely machined, goes in and out of any pocket really easily, plenty of gaps. So the pocket clip itself is executed very, very well. Centering is spot on. I have not had to add Loctite to the pivots at all. Some Kizers I do, if after a lot of flipping, you know, they'll start to get loose, they'll go off center. This one, I haven't pulled it apart to see if there's Loctite in there, but it's staying true to center after a couple weeks here, so. Alright. Lock up. Ooh. Probably about 30, maybe 40% at most. Perfectly solid, no movement whatsoever. Lock bar has been chamfered a bit, so pretty easy to get my thumb in here. Lock bar tension is moderate to firm, so not difficult to disengage by any means. And then again, it's got the stainless steel lock insert, so. Alright, smoothness, this one, pretty smooth. This one's not completely broken in. I think it'll get smoother. Ergonomics, aside from the sharpness on the flipper tab, you know, if you pull back a little bit more and you're not jamming your finger straight into it, it's actually really comfortable. It's a comfortable handle, and again, kind of this diamond pattern and the way that it's laid out is quite grippy. And then the jimping up top is perfect, so I like the ergonomics. Again, depending on where your finger hits this thing, it's going to be unhappy. So, anyways, that is the Kizer Gunhammer. Again, big fan of the design. Really glad to see it come out with a company that you know, has a reputation that I trust, that, you know, hasn't let me down so far with their offerings. And yeah, maybe they'll do more with Daryl Ralph. Again, he had a really iconic, well, he had a model in the movie The Expendables, so I think that certainly gave some additional brand recognition to him and his designs. And again, I've heard good and bad things about the knives that come out of his custom shop, but I have no experience, so if you've liked this design, Kizer's a safe bet. You know, you buy from a retailer. If you have a problem with it, you send it back to the retailer, or you deal with Kizer's warranty support. So we'll go ahead and leave it there. Hopefully I didn't miss anything and I could answer all of the potential questions you guys may have had. Yeah, so we'll leave it there. Have a great night. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.